listen a bit while I tell you a story from long, long ago. A tale of betrayal and human emotions, a story of sad love also. A tale full of passion in setting old-fashioned, take but an hour or so. Tale of deduction in tuneful production, I think we are ready to go. In the town of Dawson Landing, life is pleasant, life is good. On the Mississippi River, sidewalks brick and houses wood. Just a bit south of St. Louis, 1830 is the year, and the town provides the setting for our tale.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Samuel Langhorne Clemens, although you may know me better by my pen name, Mark Twain. This evening, for your enjoyment, our little band of players will present a musical adaptation of Puddenhead Wilson, which is a story I wrote in 1893. There is a convention in the theater which is called the willing suspension of disbelief, which is different from the iron-headed gullibility displayed by most members of the human race. No. This willing suspension of disbelief is an essential part of the theater experience. For example, if we were to conduct a stage set the way it should be, the river would be right where you were sitting, and you would all be very, very wet. No, in this circumstance, you are quite willing to suspend your disbelief and stay dry. Another thing is me. You have no doubt that I am Mark Twain, even though I've been dead for 112 years. In any event, I thank you for your vote of confidence. I will ask for a stretch here, however, because even though I have never been known to sing or play the dulcimer, this is a musical, and we all must do our part. As I was saying, our story begins on a February morning in 1830. Andrew Jackson is president. The Industrial Revolution is just kicking in. Railroads and steamboats are changing the face of the land. The chief citizen of the town is Judge York Lester Driscoll, who is about 40 years of age, and judge of the county court. Very, very, very proud of his old Virginia ancestry, the judge is formal and stately in his manner, adheres to the Code Duello, and aspires to the title of gentleman.
I'm of the finest pedigree, a scion of the FFV, first families of Virginia, from that lineage I fall, to carry on the Driscoll name without a blemish, fault, or stain. To live my life for honor is my duty, life and call. For honor, the things we do for honor. I deem myself a gentleman, and to that I'll be true. Though born a Presbyterian, I think I know enough of sin to say that on the whole that no religion owns the truth. I keep my thoughts both pure and free, a free thinker in society. I deem myself a gentleman and have been from my youth. For honor, the things we do for honor. I hold myself a gentleman, and to that I'll be true.
Judge Driscoll lives with his wife and his widowed sister, Mrs. Rachel Pratt. The family is respected and well off. However, both Mrs. Driscoll and Mrs. Pratt are childish, and are acutely aware of the absence of children's voices around the house. Maybe they don't know how lucky they are. The judge's younger brother, Percy Driscoll, is engaged in business, although as the story opens, he and his wife are expecting a child. Mrs. Driscoll has given birth before, but unfortunately none of those children survived. There is eager anticipation. Also expecting a child is Percy Driscoll's slave girl, Roxana, known as Roxy.
Now Roxy was just 20, with long flowing chestnut hair. She was tall and she was stately, and her skin was white and fair. But 1/16 of her was Negro, and outvoted all the rest. To the world and by the law she was a slave. For that 16th part of Negro blood was all the law would see. She was born and held in bondage, she was Driscoll property. Her son's 1 part in 32 said he was born a slave. His destiny was set from the cradle to the grave. As she lay there after childhood, delighting in her son, Mrs. Driscoll, weak from childbirth, sadly died. So along with care of self and son, she must tend the master's child. To the world and by the law she was a slave. Go on, get out of bed, there's work for you to do. It doesn't matter how tired you feel, there is no rest for you. You must tend the master's child, you must take him to your breast. No matter that you have one of your own, go on, get up, get dressed. Work, 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 you only are a slave. Your destiny is not your own from the cradle to the grave. Your life is not your own, you are Driscoll property. Go on, get up, there's work to do, a child upon each knee. Rocking them at night, you sing them both to sleep. In soothing sounds so softly clear and peaceful silent sleep. Work, 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 you are only just a slave. Your destiny is not your own from the cradle to the grave. Two peas in a pod, 2 peas in a pod. One of them born to the manor, one of them born to the sod. One of them born a master, one of them born a slave. One of them child of my body, which one would I save? Both of them have golden hair, both of them bless my care, both of them love and slow. Why are they different at all? 2 peas in a pod, 2 peas in the pod. One of them born to the manor, one of them born to the sod. One wears coarse tow linen, one wears the finest silk. Both are always hungry, both drink the same warm milk. Both of them have golden hair, both of them placed in my care. Both of them helpless and small, why are they different at all?
And so Roxy now is taking care of both children, her own, whom she named Valet de Chambers, because she heard the name once and thinks it sounds fine, and Tom Driscoll, the master's son. Percy Driscoll is immersed in his real estate speculations and is leaving Roxy to her own devices, taking care of both children. Other characters you will meet include the widow Cooper, who everyone calls Aunt Patsy, and her young daughter Rowena, a number of townspeople, and of course the hero of our story, David Wilson, who was called Puddenhead. You may wonder how he got that name. He arrived the same February and was a homely, freckled, sandy-haired young attorney from back east. Now, I like this young man. I ought to, since I created him. But even so, there's a likableness to him which is refreshing. And I have no doubt that he could have started upon a successful career in Dawson Landing, except for an unfortunate remark.
'Twas a dry and dusty day in Dawson's Landing, and some of the boys were sitting around the store, swatting flies and trading lies and gossip, when the stranger comes a-walking through the door. Yakity Yak, is that a fact? Here in Dawson Landing we're no fools, we call things just the way we see 'em. But still you've got to play by all the rules. The stranger said his name was David Wilson, a lawyer come to town to seek his fame. And then the stranger went and said a strange thing, and thus the stranger got a brand new name. While we were standing there, a dog was howling, and kept on howling till we all were vexed. The stranger said he wished he owned just half the dog, because then he would promptly kill his half. We searched the stranger's face with consternation, for there seemed no sense in what the stranger said. For it seemed to us that if you killed a portion, then the general dog in total must be dead. We looked at one another in confusion. Was this the kind of joke he liked to play? The stranger wasn't smiling and was silent. Then he turned around and slowly walked away. We scratched our heads and started into figure. The man seemed several bit shy of a load. I'm not sure all his oars are in the water. I'm not sure that his fiddle's fully bowed. The man appears to be some sort of labrick, a moron, jackass, simpleton, or mule. Sad to state, the facts are there before us. Gentlemen, he seems to be a fool. We seem then, gentlemen, to have consensus of sense the stranger shows us not a shred. Unless we've lost our sense of observation, the man appears to be a Puddenhead. Yakity Yak, is that a fact? Here in Dawson Land, and we're no fools, we call things just the way we see 'em. But still you gotta play by all the rules.
And thus was David Wilson saddled with the name Puddenhead. In time he came to be liked, and his name lost any harsh or unfriendly feeling, but because of that one remark, his first day in town, he had a nickname which would stay for him for 20 long years. He had a trifle of money when he arrived, and bought a small house on the edge of town across a grassy lot from the house of Judge Driscoll. His deadly remark had ruined any chance he might have had of a successful law career, so he eked out an existence as a land surveyor and expert accountant.
When I was a young man, I studied the law. I saw the world around me, and I saw its many flaws. I thought about injustice, and it stuck in my craw. I thought I'd work for justice as a lawyer. I studied court procedures, and I studied legal rules. I dissected all the precedents, my wit and mind my tools. I studied all the arguments to use in legal duels. I thought I'd probe for truth as a lawyer. Now I am a lawyer, and I've never had a case, nor have I had a client since I came into this place. I'll stick it out, I'll live it down, and by the high God's grace, someday I'll have my chance to be a lawyer.
Even though young Wilson had a rich abundance of idle time, it never hung heavy in his hands, for he was interested in every new thing that was born into the universe of ideas, and studied it and experimented upon it at his house. One of his pet fads was the study of palmistry, and the ways that a person's hands can indicate that person's character, past and future. Another interest didn't even have a name, but dealt with people's fingerprints, or more precisely, the marks left by their fingers upon small pieces of glass. Wilson generally carried a shallow wooden box with grooves in it, and in the grooves were strips of glass 5 inches long and 3 inches wide. Wilson would ask a person to run their hands through their hair, picking up the natural oils, and then make a thumb mark on the glass strip, followed it with a mark of the ball of each finger in succession. Under this, he would write on a paper strip pasted along the lower edge, John Smith, right hand, along with the day, month, and year. He would then ask the same on the other hand, and the glass slides would then be replaced in the wooden box among what Wilson called his records. He would often study these records far into the night. Sometimes he would copy the delicate patterns on paper and then enlarge the tracing with a pantograph, and study the web of curving lines with ease and convenience. But what he found there, if anything, he revealed to no one.
The thumb's the thing that never changes the world, and ridge there for all to see. A thing that time never rearranges. It's really not a mystery. Some years ago I began to study the marks which appear on everyone's hand. Each person's hand can tell a story which one may read and understand. I rarely talk about my studies. I know that people think me odd. I have no wish to fuel the fire or be the joke of some rude clod. I know that folks think me eccentric. I know they call me Puddenhead, but I know that someday I'll outlive the name that came from what I said.
One sweltering afternoon, July 1st, 1830, Wilson was in his workroom trying to straighten out a set of tangled account books when he observed Roxana passing by.
How old are they, Roxy?
Both the same age, sir. 5 months. Born the 1st of February.
They certainly are handsome little chaps. One just as handsome as the other two.
Why, thank you, Mr. Wilson. I sure think so. But it's powerful nice to hear you say it, because one of them ain't nothing but a slave. Mighty prime little guy in any event. Of course, I'm somewhat partial, since he's mine.
Why do you call him Chambers?
Well, his real name is Valet de Chambers, which is such a pretty-sounding name. Real fine and easy on the ear. But sometimes I don't have time for the whole thing, so it comes out Chambers.
I don't understand why he has blonde hair and blue eyes.
Well, Mr. Wilson, the truth is he ain't got but a little bit of Negro blood in him. I's only one part of 16 Negro blood, and he ain't got one part out of 32. At least, why, that's what the birthing papers say. They do look alike, don't they?
They sure do. How can you tell them apart, Roxy? They haven't got any clothes on.
Oh, I can tell them apart, Mr. Wilson. But I bet Marse Percy couldn't, not to save his life. He's so busy with his business he doesn't have time for his family. Such a shame that Mrs. Driscoll had to die like that.
Marse Driscoll can't even tell them apart, but I can. I knows them with the eyes of my heart, from the curls on their heads to the ends of their nose. The only thing different is the cut of their clothes. Tom Driscoll is dressed in the finest of silk, cascading laces the color of milk, while Chambers, my own son, wears rough linen tow. Were they to switch places, would anyone know?
Wilson takes out a box and asks Roxy to run her fingers through her hair and put them on the pieces of glass. Roxy asks why. Wilson says, well, it's just a little amusement of mine. It won't hurt. He's trying to get a record of everyone in town, you see. Let me date this. Roxy, right hand, July 1st, 1830. Now the other hand. Okay, now let's get the boys. Thomas at Becker Driscoll. Valet de Chambers. Thank you, Roxy. As Roxy watches him leave.
Folks call him a puddinhead and they say he's a fool, but they don't know nothing about it. Why, that man is no more a fool than I am. Listen to this if you doubt it. He's got his strange ways and I'll sure give you that, with his notions and fancies and such. But he's near the smartest man in this town. He sees, but he doesn't say much. He's always at something and writing things down, and working till late in the night. He may be a witch, for all that I know. He's quiet, that gives me a fright. I'm scared of that man, I'm scared of that man. I'm scared of that man they don't know.
2 months later, on the 3rd of September, Wilson took the trio of finger marks again. He liked to have a series, 2 or 3 takings at intervals during the period of childhood. These to be followed by intervals of several years. The next day, that is to say September 4th, Mr. Driscoll was missing a sum of money and called his servants together.
I am missing $20 that was on the pantry shelf. I want to know who took the money. Let the thief reveal himself. Confession, confession is good for the soul. Confession, confession, if this sum of money you stole from me. I think myself a humane man, compassionate and just, and yet my kindness is repaid by theft. This is the thanks I find I get. Confession, confession, this is your final call. Compassion, compassion will be yours if you tell me the truth. You have all been warned before, and it has done no earthly good. This time a lesson I will teach, as I really know I should. I'll sell you all, and here is one more thought to make you shiver. Not only will I sell you, but I'll sell you down the river. Down the river you will go, a place you've heard folks tell. Down the river is a place that sure is living hell.
With this pronouncement, Roxy reeled in her tracks, and the color drained from her face. The others fell to their knees as if they'd been shot. Tears gushed from their eyes. Their hands went up in supplication as they confessed and begged Driscoll's mercy. He relented and said that he would sell them here, but Roxy was profoundly terrified. Her child could grow up and be sold down the river. On some level, she had always known it was possible, but now, her child, sold down the river. Roxy decides to kill herself and the child.
I'd rather end my life and my child's than see him taken from me. I'd rather take back the life that I gave than see him in slavery. What did my poor baby ever do? What is he guilty of? What can I do to keep him safe with only a mother's love? No matter what, we are property. Who can be sold like cattle while little Master Driscoll sleeps with silver spoon and rattle? I couldn't stand to see you sold. My poor old heart would burst to see you led away in chains. I'd rather kill you first. But I won't let you go alone into that final sleep. No, your poor mammy will go with you. We'll take that final leap. And now the time is drawing so near to leave the world of woe. Down to the river so dark and so deep, into its waters we'll go. The river will close over us, our troubles will be gone. They don't sell poor folks over there, we'll wake in heaven's dawn. But it ain't fitting that the Lord should see us in these clothes. What can your poor old mama do? What can we do for show? My finest dress of calico will be my funeral gown. But what of you, child? That tow linen shirt is ragged, old, and brown. Some of the master's clothes we'll take. I'll dress you up so fine. The angels above will admire you so, dear little boy of mine. I'll dress us both in a finery to greet the Lord this day, and hope that he will accept us in, see our woes and forgive our sin. Death, sweet sleep, and our freedom win. We're on the heavenly way. Hold still, child. My goodness, with that shirt on, Massa Driscoll ain't one bit prettier than you. You look like Master Driscoll. Both of them have golden hair, both of them placed in my care, both of them helpless and small. Why are they different at all?
And so the deed was done, and young Chambers became Thomas Beggar Driscoll, heir to the Driscoll name and fortune, while Tom Driscoll, who formerly occupied that office, was placed in Chambers' unpainted pine cradle, unaware of the fundamental change that had occurred in his life. Although Roxy had a degree of remorse for the former Tom Driscoll, knowing the kind of life she had condemned him to live, she nevertheless saw this as a heaven-sent way of salvation for her child. Roxy spent what was left of the night practicing, and was surprised how easily she transferred the deference she habitually gave to the heir of the Driscoll clan to her own son, and how similarly handy she was becoming in transferring her motherly curtness of speech and peremptoriness of manner to the unlucky heir of the ancient house of Driscoll.
I've got to practice, 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 I just can't make no mistakes. From make-believe to fact is hard, my child, for both our sakes. Your name is now Tom Driscoll, I must remember that. I cannot call you honey child or give you a loving pat. I cannot show you tenderness, least not with folks around. Your name is now Tom Driscoll, what a lovely sound. You're safe at last, my lovely child, you never will be sold. You'll always have enough to eat, you never will be cold. I've got to keep pretending till it all comes out just right. Practice every day and practice every night. I can't afford to make mistakes, must keep the goal in sight. I've got to keep pretending till it all comes out just right. You are now the master's child, I must keep that in mind. If we get caught, the game is up, no mercy will we find. The master's son will take your place and wear the chains that bind. I'm awful sorry, honey child, for fate that's so unkind.
Roxy knew that the other 3 servants in the household were about to be sold, and she didn't have to worry about discovery from that quarter. She determined that whenever she would go out with the children, she would smear their faces with jam for as long as it took. Marsh Percy's land speculations at that time were difficult and tied up in litigation, so that he was often away from home for long periods of time. And even when he was home, he was so distracted that he hardly saw the children even when he looked at them. Roxy was only afraid of one thing.
I'm scared of that man they don't know, they don't know. I'm scared of that man they don't know. They calls him a fool, they don't know, they don't know. They calls him a fool, they don't know. Why, that man is no more a fool than I am, and those who think different they don't understand. He could bring trouble to all that I've planned. I've got to be careful of him. I'm scared of that man they don't know, they don't know. I'm scared of that man they don't know.